everyone, Robert Ferringo of Doc Sports Services here with my main compadre, Raphael Esparza, delivering you your college hoops handicapping extravaganza for Friday, March 4th. Raphael, it's tournament time. Conference tournaments are in full effect. We're going to get to some of those mid-major conference tournaments in a minute, but we got to pay the bills first. First, go to docsports.com, get signed up for a week's worth of college basketball picks with myself, Raphael Esparza, or any of the dozen top handicappers that we have at the site. Use the link above and below to get $60 free towards your account to be used towards any handicapper in any sport for any package that you desire. Also, we have a couple promo codes that are going to be active over the weekend. One of them is CBB Week 15, and you'll get 15% off any one-week college basketball package. And also CBB, as in college basketball, End 25. That'll give you 25% off the remainder of the college basketball season. So, all right, that's out of the way. Raphael, the madness has begun. What are you looking at in these conference tournaments, and how is handicapping conference tournaments in college basketball different than handicapping the regular season?
Well, what I'm looking at right now is how can Longwood only be up by 4 at halftime as I'm watching this game. Who doesn't like some Longwood early in the afternoon? But I can guarantee you North Carolina A&T will win the halftime band show on that one. But yeah, handicapping conference tournaments is tricky because I agree. Some of these coaches I think that know that they're in the tournament. Maybe they know they're probably going to 3, 4, 5 seed in a bracket. Do they really want to risk injuries that they don't play hard in some of these conferences? So you have to try to look ahead of that and maybe see who's going to play hard, who really wants to win these conference tournaments. Then you have to look at the schools who are on a bubble: Rutgers, Indiana. I had maybe Oregon, but they lost the other night, so they're probably out of it. You have to look at these schools who know that on the bubble, and I can guarantee you, every team is Google searching Lenardi's, Hank Palm, all these other people, who's on the bubble, who's in, who's not. They know who's in it. They know they may need 2 wins in conference tournament or just 1 more win so they can get in. Memphis tonight, a perfect example. Even though they've been playing red hot, I can guarantee you the committee would want them out for what Penny Hardaway's been shooting his mouth all season long. They would love to keep Memphis out. So it's just, you have to really dig in to see what schools I think need 1 win, 2 wins, or need to win it all. Because we know there's going to be 3 teams that are going to steal an automatic bid who should not be there. That maybe have a subpar 500 record in a tournament, but won their conference tournament.
Now, I want to touch on one of your points there is motivation. Motivation this time of the year is so critical. I have always taken the approach, and this goes to all sports, that you always want to look to bet against teams that are in must-win situations. Like you mentioned a few of them, like Rutgers, Indiana, Memphis, these teams that are on the bubble, right? I always say you bet against teams that are in must-win situations because good teams don't put themselves in must-win situations. Shady teams end up in must-win situations. The sportsbooks know that teams like Rutgers and Indiana, teams that are on the bubble over these the next week and a half, that they have to win. So do they shade the numbers on those teams? And do you think that it is a good strategy to look to bet against those teams that are desperate for wins? Or should you try and, jump on the bandwagon and hope that somebody gets hot?
We don't shade. I'll answer that question as an odds maker point of view. We don't shade stuff like that because we'll let the money dictate that. We know right now who's a public team. What team has people been jumping on all season long? We have full-blown, 29, 30 games a teams have been playing. So we know what the public who's been betting on, who they're fading and who they're not. So we're not looking at who there must be in a must-win or this team's on a bubble. We pretty much know who's the heavy action, who's not going to get the action. So we'll make that number to that way and let the money dictate on that one. So I hate when people say, oh, they just made that number because they're in a must-win situation. They need to win to get a break. No, we made that number because so-and-so has been heavy bet all season long. Ticket count's been lopsided every time we've had them up on bet numbers. So we'll look at that one. But again, you can find some really good prices because the public will move that team that's been bet on, and maybe they're not in that must-win situation, or the other team is in that must-win situation, but that number is just way blown, maybe 2, 3, 4 points higher than what the number should be. So you can get some really good action, especially on some of these lower conferences, the Big South conferences, the WCC. We saw it last night with San Diego moving almost 3 points before they went off, and still were able to cover. So I think Portland tonight is a perfect example. That number's been switching around. People saw, I cashed off San Diego last night, I'm going to jump on them again. But you forgot to look at what Portland did to them in late February. I think they beat them 90-60 something. I don't have it in front of me. So you just have to pick your spots and do your research on spots, because there's some soft numbers right now.
All right, one of the unique things about conference tournament betting is the quick turnaround. Teams, you play, you win, you play it again the next day. Who do you feel like is at a bigger disadvantage in those situations? The public, because they can get swept up in exactly what you said. Hey, I bet on San Diego last night and they won. I'm going to bet them again today, not really considering the mashups. Or are the odds makers at a little bit of a disadvantage because things happen so quickly in so many conferences all over the country that it's kind of mixing and matching a little bit? Who's at a bigger disadvantage, do you think, with the quick turnaround?
Oh, Joe Public, because Joe Public is still looking at their ESPN ratings or what happened last night and stuff like that, and they're going to bet. The bettors will always bet with the last thing they saw. It doesn't matter how that team won. They don't even look at the injuries, if there was an injury or whatever. They just they bet what we see it in football all the time. The Monday Night Football winner usually gets a lot of action the next week, because that's the last team we saw on TV. So the public is, I think, at a huge disadvantage, because, like I said, they're not doing their research diligently. They're just looking at their newspaper, their local paper, ESPN, and seeing what they saw the box score from last night.
That is called the recency heuristic right there. A little psychology for you. People can go look that one up for you on your own. We're going to transition to breaking down some games in Friday's action. One that caught my eye right off the bat is Buffalo at Kent State. Buffalo a 3-point underdog at Kent State, which seems a little short to me, considering that Kent State, outside of Murray State, might be the hottest mid-major team in the country right now. They've won 11 straight games. They've done it convincingly. They've been outstanding at home. They've been covering spreads left and right. Now, Buffalo's no joke. They are a very experienced, very talented MAC team that does have the potential to win that conference tournament. 5 of their top 7 players are seniors, so they've been down this road before. They hammered Kent State in the first matchup. Raphael, what did you think about this number, and which side do you lean if you had to make a pick?
I agree. If it wasn't for Murray State, we'll be talking about the Flashes. They've just been playing outstanding. But man, was it a bad loss for Buffalo to lose to Toledo at home. I think it'd be a totally different game. I think it'd be a totally different number if they didn't falter on that one. A little bit. I made this number 3. Really thought the public would move it up to maybe 3.5 or 4. So I'm a little bit shocked on the line movement. I think we'll probably get some action. It's a 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time game. So I would not be shocked if we do see 3.5 pop up. But I like the flash in this one. I've just been really, really impressed. Again, if it wasn't for Murray State, we'd be talking about the Flashes.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I just think that their numbers have been short throughout this whole winning streak. But like I said, Buffalo's a good team, and they beat Kent State the first time. But I really felt like this number should have been. I wasn't surprised that it came out at 2.5 or 3, but I really felt like it should have been around 5. I mean, when you got a team that's as hot as Kent State, and you mentioned that Buffalo Toledo game, it wasn't just that they lost at home to Toledo. That's understandable. Toledo's a really good team, and the problem with that one is that it wasn't a competitive game. Like, Toledo blew their doors off in the first half. They ended up winning by 16 points. So you got to wonder about some of the residual hangover effect that the Bulls are going to be bringing into Ohio today. So, all right, next game I want to talk to that's not a conference tournament game before we get into some conference tournament action is Richmond going to St Bonaventure. Now, these are 2 teams that I followed very, very closely throughout the A10 this year. It's a great game and a great matchup, and this could be a potential A10 semifinal or final game, but you got to wonder about the motivation level for both of these teams, Raphael, going back to what we were talking about earlier that's so important. Both of these teams are veteran teams. Both of these teams have short benches. They play their starters a lot of minutes. So really, both of these teams are probably looking ahead to the A10 tournament, knowing that that's likely the only chance that they have to punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament. What do you see in this matchup? Who has the edge? And do you think I'm taking the appropriate view on this one?
I'm looking at this game as just an A-10 conference that's been a bad conference all season long. We know how many teams we're probably going to get in this conference. Normally, we would see the Bonnies in the tournament. Normally, we would see more than one teams coming into A-10 in this tournament. I'm a little bit disappointed on both teams. Richmond hasn't got balls, didn't cover back-to-back games, so has the Bonaventures. I thought the Bonnies would be 4 or 5 point favorites like we discussed the last game. Bad loss against VCU. There's another one. They got blown out. Wasn't even close the whole game. So what's the motivation? I think you said it right. I think these teams know that in order to get in, they're gonna have to play well in a conference tournament. So what's motivation for this game? And maybe just not to get hurt and stay healthy for the tournament. This one's a throwaway game for me because I think both teams are looking for a conference tournament, not this game alone.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have too much respect for either one of these teams, but it is a game that I'm going to be tracking to see if they show up. It is interesting that the line opened at 3. It has been bet up to 4, which means either the public or big money is coming in on St Bonaventures. They do have that big home court advantage, but Richmond always a pretty active underdog. All right, getting into tournament action. All right, we're going to start with Arch Madness. One of my favorite tournaments, the Missouri Valley. It's a league that I know that you follow pretty closely, and 2 games that we're going to talk about. The first one is Bradley versus Loyola Chicago. Now, Bradley's been pretty spry this entire season. I feel like they have definitely superseded my expectations this year. However, this Loyola team is definitely capable of cutting down the nets in this tournament. They're coming off a brutal overtime loss, just an absolute battle with Northern Iowa. That game was basically for the regular season championship over the weekend. So now Loyola gets bumped down to this seed, and they'll have to face Northern Iowa if both teams win in the semifinals. What do you think of this one? This number opened at 5.5, a little aggressive for considering where these teams are seated in this tournament. Do you like the value with the underdog? We saw some underdogs play well in conference tournaments yesterday, or is Loyola Chicago kind of that mission team in the Missouri Valley?
Well, the Ramblers, or I like to call them the Gamblers, just because the nuns are always watching them. So I always want to put the G next to their names. So when I see nuns watching game, I want to put Gamblers instead of Ramblers. But Loyola Chicago is some people have them last 4 in, some people have them on the bubble. I have them in, but I think if they win this game, they're for sure in this one. So that's why I think the public will bet them on this one. I like them on this spot, even though you mentioned that Northern Iowa game was horrendously good. I had the over in that one, 137. Didn't have to sweat it at all, so that was a good cash for me. But I think a dead under game on this one. I think their Ramblers defense will tighten up, especially in the second half. I like the Gamblers to win this one.
Loyola hasn't lost back-to-back games in conference play all season, and the only time that they have lost back-to-back games was back November 24th and November 25th when they lost to Michigan State and Auburn on back-to-back days. No shame there. I like Loyola Chicago in that one. Again, they may not end up winning this tournament, even though they have the talent to, but this is a very, very experienced, talented, March battle-tested team. I don't see them going out in the quarterfinals of the conference tournament. All right, staying in Arch Madness, I think is the best game of the night. Okay, the one that I'm going to talk about after this is a pretty good matchup also, but I think the best game of the night, or the game I'm most interested in, is Southern Illinois versus Drake. These are 2 teams that I've been pretty high on all season long. Southern Illinois, I bet them it off the cliff early on in the season. Then as soon as I started backing up on them, they've caught fire. They've covered 4 straight against the spread, including a game against Drake last Saturday where they were down 17 points, getting run out of the gym, and ended up managing to scum their way back into the back door. They're 8-3 against the spread in their last 11, and I believe they're 17-6 against the spread in their last 23 games. So solid underdog. Drake, on the other hand, finally gotten healthy. Finally gotten Shaq Hemphill back, finally gotten Roman Penn back and in form. They're a team that could definitely be a sleeper to win this tournament, and they seem like they're playing their best basketball at the right time. Raphael, do we just sit back, watch, and enjoy the intensity of this one, or do you like value with one of these 2 sides?
For me, I'm sitting back and watch it, unless for some odd reason this one goes to 4. And then I'm taking the underdog because you just said it. They've covered 4 straight. These two teams played last Saturday, 62-60 game. And you mentioned Drake blew a double-digit lead and could have easily lost that game in the last minute of the game. So, yeah, this one's a sit back and enjoy it because this one's going to be fun to watch up in Arch Madness. I agree. Sit back and watch this one. I don't see 3.5. I don't see 4. I'm just wishful, but I think Drake either look at the home favorite or the home favorite. Look at the favorites or pass on this one, unless for some odd reason huge line movement.
Yeah, like I said, this is kind of like that Richmond St Bonaventure game for me, where I've been betting on these teams throughout the season. So I don't like to bet against teams that I've kind of enjoyed some success with throughout the year. So for me, I'm going to sit back and watch. But I definitely like Drake in this game. I think that they are going to I think they're getting hot at the right time. All right. In the Ohio Valley, we have Murray State, who is just a behemoth. I believe they've won 17 straight games, or 28-2 on the season. They may secure a rare bid, like not an automatic bid, but an at-large bid from the Ohio Valley Conference. If they don't win this conference tournament, they are 15-point favorites today. They will be massive favorites over whoever they play tomorrow. And that's going to be either Morehead State or Belmont. Now, coming into the season, a lot of people, myself included, thought Belmont was the top dog in the Ohio Valley Conference because of their experience and what they brought back from last year. Morehead State, though, they've been undervalued, and they've been a solid play in the OVC all season. They are the defending Ohio Valley Conference champions. They actually beat Belmont badly in the conference tournament championship game last year. So Belmont's going to be playing with a little bit of revenge. They split the regular season meetings. Raphael, what do you see in this matchup between underdog Morehead State and Belmont? And do you think either one of them has a chance against Murray State this weekend?
No one has a chance against Murray State. I don't want to see Murray State and Belmont number 3 because I don't want to see a beatdown again by Belmont. So for me, I'm looking for Morehead on this spot just because, again, I don't want to see that rematch. And I don't think either of them's going to beat Murray State, the Racers, on this spot. But I know Belmont will want to play Murray State again and try to get some redemption on that one. I'm looking for Morehead. I like the way Morehead will probably defense intensify. They go up, 56 points in their last game. I think that's what they're going to need to do to keep Belmont from getting the W. I think defense would be the big issue. So give me Morehead State on this one. Because, I don't want to see the three-peat. I don't want to see Belmont only score 40-plus points and Murray puts up 100 mark on that.
Yeah, they're just not athletic enough to keep up with Murray State that much, and they can't slow the game down enough to keep it competitive. Morehead probably does match up a little bit better with Murray State. Let me ask you, I don't think it matters between Morehead and Belmont who wins against Murray State. I think that number is going to come out kind of high, maybe around 8.5, 9. Is it? Do you think I'm close with that? Like a Murray State, the Ohio Valley Conference Championship game. Okay, Murray State versus someone. I think that spread's going to be 8.5, 9, 9.5. Do you think I'm close on that? Or do you think that's maybe too high for a conference?
I think it's way too high because it wasn't Morehead State, Murray State. The number only like 1-2 point when they played each other a couple of weeks ago, where Murray only beat them by 3.
Though. That was a true road game.
Yeah, I know. That was a true road game, but Murray State, they put up a low number. It wasn't like only 55 points against Morehead. It was a very low number. I was thinking more of a 6-7 range, not 8-9, because I think the betting public will probably push it a solid point, but I don't see the betting public pushing up to a 10-point swing.
Okay. All right, last game we're going to dip out to the WCC Conference Tournament, Conference Championships. We have Loyola Marymount getting 12 points versus BYU. Now, these two teams just played about a week and a half ago, and BYU pasted Loyola Marymount. They beat them by 20. But that game was in Provo, where we know BYU is kind of a different animal. The first time that these two teams met, the game actually went to overtime. So LMU is at least competitive with the Cougars. LMU played great last night. They shot 54% from the field, 13 for 24 from three-point range. Joe Quintana, the second, he's number 2 shooter in the conference, went 8 for 10 from three-point range, went off for 32 points. They looked really good. A double-digit underdog here with a team that already has a win under its belt in conference tournament action, Raphael, do you think that that gives them a little bit of an advantage, having already played a game, having already knocked out some of the nerves going up against a BYU team that, maybe a little icy to start? It may take them a little bit to get into this game. How do you see this one shaking out in the WCC?
No, I mean, BYU's last 2 games, I know they were at home, 79 points against LMU. We just mentioned that 75 against the Wave, Pepperdine. They're probably going to put up a big number. Their last 6 meetings, LMU's only covered 1, and they didn't even win that game. I think they lost in overtime. So even though I'd love to see LMU pull off the upset, I'm always a big LMU fan in the month of March because of Hank Gathers. Got to meet him before he died. I don't want to mention the whole story on that one. So I'm a big LMU fan for the month of March, no matter how good or bad they are. But this one's going to be a bad outcome. I think I would not be shocked because some people have BYU again on that bubble. I still think the WCC gets 3 teams in. BYU is my 3rd team. St. Mary's, Gonzaga, BYU's in. I think they win this game, and I think they need to win one more game to get a shoe in. WCC, 3 teams in, baby.
You got them in, you got Loyola in. You're awful generous with these at-large berths. All right, so we've been talking some WCC action because, as you mentioned, there are some really good teams. San Francisco is a team that is capable of jumping up and fighting someone. You know that I haven't been as enamored with Gonzaga as a lot of other people, and we saw St. Mary's beat them badly, as a matter of fact, in their final game of the year. Do you think St. Mary's has it in them to do it again? Do you think Gonzaga is just going to roll through this tournament and just crush everyone by 18 plus points? What's your kind of state of the union for Gonzaga, so to speak, heading into this conference tournament?
If St. Mary's beats them again, Gonzaga does not get a number 1 seed. I think if you lose back-to-back games to, I don't care who it is in your conference. We've said it that the WCC is not the greatest conference in the world. They don't play some matchups. But if you lose to a team twice, you don't deserve a number 1 seed in a bracket. So if I'm Gonzaga, you need to flex your muscles in this tournament. I'm not going to say the redemption. I have Gonzaga winning. They're going to cover this number, whoever they play in a championship game. I don't know that, but I think Gonzaga knows that, hey, if we lose another game, we're going to be in a 2 spot, and would not shock me if Wisconsin jumps up and grabs the number 1 spot. That was a big win that they had the other night with Purdue, Kansas, Duke. If they win against North Carolina and on Saturday, and let's say they win their conferences, they can jump up for a number 1 spot. So if you're the Zags, you need victories and you need to win your conference tournament because you cannot lose another conference tournament because I don't think you get a 1 seed.
Knowing that and knowing how good they have been against the spread, we know Gonzaga, they're only going to have to play 2 games because the way the WCC has their tournament structured, they get an automatic bye to the semifinals, then they play in the finals. We know they're going to be double-digit favorites in both of those games. Is there some value jumping on the Bulldogs here, knowing that they, are going to want to take some frustration out on some people and really secure that number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament? Should we be looking to back Gonzaga in this tournament, looking at what they've done?
I think in a semifinal game.
Season?
I think the semifinal game you might get some good value. Maybe not the final itself, because I think the final, let's say if Gonzaga blows out whoever they play in the semifinals, then I think the odds maker is going to just look at that win and maybe put a big number on that, and you can maybe get a nice backdoor cover playing the dog in a final game.
All right, Raphael, good stuff as always, getting us primed for one of the best weekends of the year. I know that the NCAA tournament opening weekend is just a phenomenal betting weekend, but next weekend with all the tournaments going on across the country, we're going to be doing these videos every day. It's one of the best times of the year to be betting on sports. Give the people what they want though, Raphael. You got a free pick for me for tonight?
You know our boy Max that has to grade everything in the back end and always complains that I'm going to take the late game because he has to stay up late to grade the stuff. Hey, Max, look at this one. Portland game. Give me the Portland Pilots, the 11:30 Eastern Standard Time game. Why is this only 1.5? Why did the number drop? They opened up at 2.5. Now it's 1. I know San Diego won last night. They got a game underneath their belt. But these 2 teams just played each other, and they put up a 90 mark, the Pilots did. They put up another big game. This one goes over. Portland wins. I'm going to take the Pilots.
All right, I'm going to take the points with Loyola Marymount. Double-digit underdogs in conference tournament games have been cleaning up the last couple of days. I believe they went 5-0 or 6-0 yesterday, 6-1. Cleveland State was able to cover against Robert Morris. But other than that, look, it's conference tournament time. These games are going to tighten up. These teams, even the double-digit underdogs that have losing records on the season, they're playing with house money. They have absolutely nothing to lose, so they're going to throw the kitchen sink at these favorites, and they're going to compete for the full 40 minutes. It's really tough to blow a team out at this time of the year. There are those teams that just can't wait for the season to be over, and they'll get run out of the gym. But as you get deeper into these tournaments, teams that are still alive, they can smell that NCAA tournament bid, and they're going to fight tooth and nail. So I think BYU wins. They're the better team here. I don't think LMU will shoot quite as well as they did last night. But I think LMU is going to keep it competitive. I think they give BYU a game, and I think that's too many points. So I'll take the plus 12 in that game. All right, he's Raphael Esparza. I'm Robert Ferringo. Tomorrow, big Saturday college basketball cards for both of us. Be sure to check back. And next week, we will have multiple college hoops handicapping extravaganzas to guide you through championship week. In the meantime, carpe diem and good luck.